Okay, this video is on justifying the steps in justifying the steps in solving an equation. Justifying the steps in a, wow. All right. So, what that means is basically like doing a proof. You got to prove what you're doing. So, if this is our problem, as usual, the first thing we do is the distributive property. And so, in order to get from here to here, what we did was the distributive property. Okay, now you'll be asked to do these things. You'll be asked to justify. And so you'll have to say what you did to get to this line. And so you'll write distributive property. Hello. Okay, sorry about that. So you'll have to justify the properties. I think I already said that, but I lost track because it's been about 15 minutes. Sorry. Okay, so from here, we need to get all our variables on one side and our constants on the other, just like normal when solving. So we add 5a to each side, or at least I did, and we end up with 10 equals a minus 48. Well, what we did to get from here to here, the name of that property was the addition property of equality. And so that's our justification there. So when they ask what we did for that step, that's the name of the property. Okay, these are like 2-column proofs, something that you'll learn about. Yeah, you'll learn more about them in geometry. However, what it means is here is your statement, and here's the reason that you're allowed to do it. So we're allowed to go from here to here because of the distributive property. We're allowed to go from here to here because of the addition property of equality. And so now we add 48 to each side, and we get 58 equals a. And again, in this case, since we added, that would be the addition property of equality as well. Now, that was a nice short one. Let's take a look at another one. So we've got our problem here. So as usual, we start off with the distributive property. And so we write down that we use the distributive property. Then, again, we bring all our variables to one side and our constants to the other. So in this case, I subtracted 3a from each side and got 6a minus 99 equals 33. Well, this time, since I subtracted, the property I used was the subtraction property of equality. And then we need to bring our constants to the other side, so we add 99 to each side, and we get 6a is 132. Well, to get from here to here, that's the addition property of equality. We added the same amount to each side. And then to get the variable by itself, we divide both sides by 6 to get a equals 22. And so to get from here to here, we used the division property of equality. So there were 3 steps on the first one, there were 4 steps on this one. Okay. Now again, we started off with the distributive property. But we have like terms on the same side. So we combine like terms. However, combine like terms is not a property. So we put those together. We put the negative 12k and the 7k together and we get negative 5k. Well, there's no combine like terms property, like I said, but there is the substitution property. Remember, the substitution property allows us to replace something that we know for something smaller, or longer rather, sorry. We know that negative 12 plus 7 is negative 5, so we can replace this with negative 5. That's the substitution property. And then, just like the others, we need all the k's on one side. So we add 5k to each side and get 4k plus 11 equals 35. Wrong one. And so that would be, since we added, the addition property of equality. Then we need to go from 4k plus 11 equals 35. We need just the k over here, so we need to move the 11 to the other side. Well, not necessarily move it, but we need to take it away from the left side. So since we're taking it away from the left side, we also take it away from the right, and we end up with 4k equals 24. We subtracted, so that's the subtraction property of equality. And finally, we need to get k by itself, so we divide by 4 on each side and get k equals 6. And so that would be our division property of equality. And so this one had 5 steps. Alright. So we're justifying each step. We're naming the property that allows us to do this. Now, sometimes you may see if the variables didn't end up next to each other to start with, like on the SOL, you may see that they rewrite it. So the variables do end up next to each other before using the substitution property. If that's the case, you'll see that you need to call that the commutative property because they reordered it. And this is our last one. Again, distributive property first. Bring all the k's to one side. So we're going to add 6k to each side. That's a big gap. I missed. And so since we added, that's the addition property of equality. Now we need to bring the negative 12, we need to get rid of the negative 12. So we have to add that to each side, and we end up with 84 equals 42k. Again, we were adding, hello, there you are. So that's the addition property of equality. And then finally we divide by 42 on, holy cow, that's up. Let me fix this. Those should be 42s. So we divide by 42 on each side. And we get that k is 2. See, if I had done my check, I would have known that answer was wrong. But I didn't do the checks because I just wanted to focus on the actual justification part of the solving. Okay, check that. Perfect example of why the checks are important. Okay, so that last part is the division property of equality. Okay. Next class, when we're doing the dealing with the word problems, not only will you be setting them up, but when you solve them, I'll be asking that you justify the steps. So you'll have to fill in what property was used to get there. right. Have a good weekend. See you in a few days.